All the teachers in the room, all you need is a gavel. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Anissa Asaibi George, and I am a Boston City Councilor at Large, Chair of the Council's Committee on Education. I am joined here today with Council President Andrea Campbell and Councilor Kim Janey. This is a policy briefing for docket 0265 in order for a hearing regarding vocational education in the City of Boston. I'd like to remind you to please silence your cell phones and other devices. Please note that this hearing is being recorded, not live. It may end up on a Facebook post near you at some point. I just would like to thank you all for joining us here today. I'd like to have just a special round of thanks for Madison Park for opening up their home and allowing us to have this policy briefing series here. Thank you, Kevin. I'd also like to thank members of the Boston Public Schools community for joining us today. Teachers are here, administrators are here, it's wonderful, but a special thank you to our interim superintendent, Laura Perot, for joining us. This policy briefing series is to discuss the work that my colleagues and I have done to date, following with an opportunity for feedback directly from the Madison Park community. As counselors, myself, Councilor Rue, Councilor Janey, filed this hearing order regarding vocational education in the City of Boston. Since the filing, we have met with students, teachers, supporters of this school, and members of the Madison Park school community. We have also begun visiting other vocational schools in the Commonwealth to learn and see what they offer, including their admissions policy, programming, pathways to careers, higher education, and more. The schools that we have visited, in addition to Madison Park, and meeting with the students here at this school in April, the teachers and staff at this school, family, parents, supporters, as well as the Friends group of Madison Park and others that are working to strengthen vocational ed. We also, in the state, we also went out to, myself, Councilor Rue, and her staff, my staff, went to Worcester Technical Vocational High School, and in June, where we met with the headmaster, the superintendent, administrators, as well as students at that school. Just 2 weeks ago now, Jessica from my office and I went to Minuteman Vocational Technical School in Lexington, where we met with the superintendent, the principal, the vice principal, the head of special ed, toured the school, met with students and teachers there. We were scheduled to visit Greater Lawrence Vocational High School 2 weeks ago, but due to the unfortunate events with the gas and fire and very unfortunate events up in the northern part of the state, we had to cancel, but we are looking forward to rescheduling that visit in the next couple of weeks because we understand that Greater Lawrence really offers some fantastic programming and we can learn a lot from some of what they offer up there. All the information that was shared with us by our neighboring school communities will help guide us and help teach us some of what we can do in addition to some of the great things that are happening here at Madison. I really want to credit the school community and the kids that are here at Madison. And to clarify, our goal is to improve our city's vocational education opportunities for our students, what Madison can offer, not to create a new vocational school within the Boston Public Schools, because we know that our Boston kids deserve all of the great things that are happening here at Madison and all of the things that we can add to what's happening here and support that work that's happening here at Madison. It is an opportunity for Madison to really create another doorway for the future for the students that are here and the students that are in Boston. And we know, I know for my colleagues and I, we know that when we work collaboratively, when we work with partnership in a meaningful way and we create deep commitment and encourage a deeper commitment, because we know that all of you, if you are here, you are interested in vocational ed, you are interested in the success of our students here at Madison. And so when we work together, we know that we can make that happen in a greater way than it's already happening today. I look forward to hearing from everyone in the room and welcome feedback to some of what we'll share today and the conversation we'll share today and what we'll hear from all of you. And certainly look forward to having additional hearings and briefings in the future. I'd like to give an opportunity to my colleagues to speak and give out opening remarks before we open it up for public discussion. Councilor Campbell.
Thank you, Councilor Sabi George, and thank you to the principal, Kevin, for opening up your doors and your team as well. I also want to thank the staff and the administrators from Madison who are here this evening. Thank you for the work you do every single day. It's not easy work, and I didn't sign up for it, so thank you for the work that you do. And thank you to folks from the community for also being here, and also from other city departments for being here as well. And of course, thank you to our superintendent for being here. And I want to thank Councilor Janey, Councilor Sabi George, and Councilor Wu, who will be here in a minute now, for their work in this space. Each of us takes on many different issues, and sometimes we can lead in some of those spaces, and sometimes we can't, because it's a lot of work, as you can imagine. So I'm here to demonstrate the importance of this to me, also the importance of what happens at Madison to the folks who live in my district, the folks who run programs that serve people who live in our district, and those who just generally care about the state of affairs of education in the city of Boston and ensuring that Madison gets the supports that it needs to be the best, not just in Boston, but in the Commonwealth. And I will tell you, I think there's still a lot of work to be done in that space. I'm not naive. I will say that there is one woman who I'm not sure Judith is here, who is passionate about Madison and has been banging down the door. This is Judith Baker, by the way. If you don't know her, you will. On Madison. She lives in my district, and she's an incredible educator in person. And when folks often don't shine a light on Madison, she always does, and I'm using the word always, and pushes us to do better by Madison and for the students and families this school serves. So I want to thank her for her emails, for not letting this go by. She was pressuring a lot of people. And I will just add that one thing she said in one of the emails talked about incremental change and how there is some great things happening here under the new leadership of those here. But that incremental change is not enough, and that we need to be moving a lot faster and quicker in order to meet the demands and expectations of our families, students, and of course the team that works here and the community. So I want to thank Judith for her leadership with respect to this issue. And lastly, I'll add, if you didn't see, there's a flyer over there related to a hearing that Councilor Asabi George, Councilor Janey, and I are hosting at the Burke High School on October 1st. It starts at 3. And it's continuing this conversation, not just with respect to Madison and vocational tech, but with respect to all of our high schools. Those that are doing well, and I'm a product of Boston Latin School, I went to all BPS schools, but those that need more support than they're currently getting. And so this hearing will continue that conversation, so I hope that many folks in the room will continue to participate in these dialogues as we develop action plans and ideas in partnership with the district and the mayor's office to do things a little bit faster and better for the folks these vital institutions serve every single day. So thank you guys, thank you Councilor Sabi George, and thank you Councilor Janey. Councilor Janey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very proud to co-sponsor this important discussion with you, along with Councilor Wu, who will be joining us. Really grateful to have you here, Madam President, Councilor Campbell, with us this evening. Certainly want to give my appreciation and thanks to the Madison Park family, community here, Kevin in particular, but all of the students, the parents, the educators here who do very hard work, very important work every single day on behalf of our community. Also want to thank all of you who really care about Madison, even if you're not a parent, student, or teacher. Your commitment, former graduates of this school, people who just are in the community who care. It's really important that we hear your voices. I want to express certainly that I believe we need more investment here and a deeper commitment. And that is the purpose of this conversation. It's been an ongoing conversation, but I'm encouraged by some of the progress that I have seen in recent years, and I don't want us to get distracted by some of the other things. There's always some crisis that can take us away from making sure we're doing all we can to support the students here and the Madison Park community here. I think about this school in the context of growing up in this community, right in Highland Park, and what this school meant. I remember when the school was being built. I remember I had friends who went to this school. My father, I think, was a headmaster at one point when it was the Humphrey Center here at this school. And I think about this in the context of what we see now in our community in terms of this economic boom and you know, a lot of development happening. And, you know, it hurts my heart to think that we are not doing enough to ensure that our young people are being prepared to take advantage of what is happening in their own backyard and to participate in that. And so I am encouraged, though, that we're having this important conversation. I look forward to really hearing from all of you on what you think is working and what we could be doing more of or doing better. So I'll stop there and let us get on with the discussion. So thank you again for being here, and also want to recognize Laura Burrell for being with us tonight.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do is open up for public comment. I know some of you have come with prepared remarks about your some of your findings. Some of you've done some deep dives into vocational technical ed in the city. But first, I'd like to give an opportunity for our interim superintendent, Laura Pearl, to speak. And I know she has to excuse herself after her comments, but I do just want to say on behalf of all of us, we do appreciate your presence here, and I know that you'll be here tomorrow night with the Secretary of Education, Jeff Riley, for the Madison Park open house. So it's exciting and glad to have you here. So I'm going to project my voice following this. If you could stand over there, sure. And then you can leave the mic there after.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be very quick about this because I'm actually here to listen and learn as well. And so while I will need to leave for another community meeting, I'm going to stay for as long as I can. But I want to thank all three counselors and, of course, Counselor Wu when she arrives here as well, for highlighting the importance of Madison Park and career vocational technical education writ large. The critical role that vocational education can play in our schools and the key role that Madison Park plays. Thank you for the research that you've been doing. I too have traveled to Worcester Tech many times, to Westfield Tech. There is a lot to learn, but there is also tremendous strength here in Madison Park, and both so much that is already happening. I want to thank both Executive Director Kevin McCaskill and also Headmaster Brett Dickens, and all of the staff and students who are here for welcoming us and opening your building as you do on so many occasions. And the last thing I will say is that Madison Park is incredibly important to the Boston Public Schools and to the city of Boston for so many of our students. There are great things happening here, as there have been for quite some time, but we also know there is important work. And it's both about the important work that needs to happen here, as well as in the broader landscape of our high schools. And I think Madison Park has an incredibly important role to play in that whole network. And so it is absolutely a priority for me as interim superintendent and for the BPS team, together with Kevin, Brett, and teacher leaders here, to delve into that. But tonight, and that's why I was so excited about this hearing, so that what I hear tonight and what other team members who are here tonight, we will fold that into our thinking and planning. So I thank all of you for coming out to share what you know, believe, and aspire to on behalf of the students here and students across the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So in an effort to really hear from the audience, we're going to go right into public testimony, and if there's a break along the way, we may share some of what our findings were, very specific as it might relate to that public testimony. So I'm going to go right into it. I'd like to recognize and call up Mr. Kevin Farr to introduce himself and share some comments.
Glasses. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Kev, I have my cafeteria voice on. Is it still working? Yes, it is. Okay. My name is Kevin Farr, and I started as a teacher at the Upper Cape Cod Regional Technical School in Bourne, Mass. in September of 1979. I taught science at a career and technical high school at a time when the student body may or may not have really wanted to come and take advantage of that particular form of education. I've seen a real metamorphosis of career in tech ed over the last 40 years. After I retired from there as superintendent, I now find myself as the executive director of the Massachusetts Association of Vocational Administrators. To me, this is a very important place, very important city, and this is at the top of my priority list. I'll just read the statement very quickly. The Massachusetts Association of Vocational Administrators has a proud history in the Commonwealth, supporting career, vocational, technical, and agricultural education. Madison Park Technical Vocational High School has received our support in the past and will continue for the benefit of all students. We'd like to commend a large number of Boston career and technical teachers and administrators, led by Executive Director Kevin McCaskill, who attended our Connecting for Success conference in Marlborough at the end of June 2018. This is a wonderful opportunity for teachers and administrators to engage in learning that can be applied directly in the classroom and thus can have a positive effect on students. Our organization and our membership, including superintendents at regional vocational technical schools from throughout the Commonwealth, understand the need for quality career and technical education in the city of Boston. We know that you share our desire for positive outcomes for all students in our schools. MAVA will continue to partner with organizations such as AVTE, the Alliance for Vocational Technical Education, who we'll hear from shortly, to promote CTE wherever necessary. We urge the Boston Public Schools to continue to support Madison Park Technical Vocational High School and participate in these forums to hear from all stakeholders, parents, students, teachers, administrators, employers, and the greater community. And thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have Todd Isherwood.
Hi, my name is Todd Isherwood. Can you hear me okay? I want to thank the council for opening up this forum. I want to thank Executive Director Kevin McCaskill for his work here, and the frontline instructors, particularly John Harold in the building, property, and maintenance. I live in Boston. I live in the North End, and I went to school here at Northeastern University, studied architecture. And prior to that, my father is a masonry contractor, so I used to lay blocks and pour concrete in my high school year. So I know about trade, and that's why I went into architecture, because it was tough work. And I came here, I worked for the largest real estate developer in the Boston metro area for 10 years, and then I worked for the largest Boston architectural firm for 10 years. And then I worked for the city of Boston as the energy manager under Mayor Menino and Mayor Walsh. And my role at the city of Boston was to help reduce the energy demand on its city's assets, its municipal buildings, including the Boston Public Schools. And I left the city back in 2015. I'm an energy consultant, and I go out there and I try to help businesses and municipalities reduce their energy demand and protect the environment. Because of climate change, it's very important to me, and it's very important to the city of Boston. One of the things that I learned, one of the takeaways that I learned while I was at the city was a conversation I had with Mayor Menino about what do you do at the city? And I told him what I was doing, and he goes, you know, you need to take this science talk and turn it into street talk. And I took that away, and I used that throughout my career at the city of Boston to go to the different facilities managers within the city and tell them the importance of their job in facilities management and how they could make a difference, both here at the city on the bottom line, but also in the climate. One thing that I did learn is that there was a real shortage of skilled workers and understanding in this environment. And particularly working with the Boston Public Schools, there was a great opportunity to be able to, and at least in my vision, to turn our school buildings into living labs, to teach students and to teach facilities managers on how to run and operate buildings in a very efficient way. Last year, I won a grant from the U.S. Green Building Council to run a green building tech program here at Madison Park High School. Kevin McCaskill and Jerome Garciano from Robinson Cole Law Firm, we collaborated together, won a grant to run an after-school program here at Madison Park in the building, property, and facilities management program here. And it ran for about 23 weeks, and we combined doing, taking the kids and teaching them green building technologies. There is a need out there in the industry to have skilled workers to run and operate all these high-performance buildings that you see being built in the city. Everywhere you look, there's a crane and there's a high-performance building. The problem is that there's not enough skilled workers to understand how to operate these buildings. So as far as what we're trying to do is create green buildings to reduce our carbon footprint. If they're not run properly, they're actually going to do more harm to the environment than anything else. So Madison Park plays a critical role in creating a workforce, not just architects and engineers, but actually frontline facilities managers, which is being taught here. The Chapter 74 curriculum recently added green building technologies within its guidelines. And we believe at Madison Park, and according to my research, Madison Park offered the first program through our club to start going down that path of fulfilling the Chapter 74 requirements in green building technologies. That program is starting up again this year, and in a modified version, but we believe that Madison Park could be a great example of that in the building facility management program. I hope that it can be sustained further and be an example for the rest of the Commonwealth and across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Next, we have Dawn Walsh. And then following Dawn, just so you can be prepared, will be Dennis Wilson.
Good evening. So my name is Dawn Walsh. I'm a resident of Savin Hill in Dorchester, and I'm a volunteer with a group called the Alliance for Vocational Technical Education. I've submitted a testimony, and I think I'll just read it very quickly. I also put together a we have a document put together, and it's online also, and it talks about what we've found out about vocational technical education or career technical education, how important we think it is, and what we would recommend to enhance it not only across the state, but in particular in the city of Boston. So councilors, the Alliance for Vocational Technical Education enthusiastically supports your interest in vocational technical education in Boston. It would love to actively work with you to dramatically increase the general awareness of today's impressive vocational technical programs existing across the state. We also want to ensure that Boston students ultimately experience these programs in Boston. AVT is a fairly new organization of disparate interests that have come together to advocate for increased vocational technical programs in Massachusetts. AVTE members recognize the value in such programs for students, families, employers, and educators. We have learned, to the surprise of many of us, that a recent study found 5,400 students on waiting lists to get into regional vocational technical schools throughout the state. These waiting lists exist because more and more families now recognize that vocational technical education is a strong foundation for high-paying jobs and college access. The traditional view that vocational technical education was for students with limited academic capacity is very outdated. Today's VOTech grads can go to the best colleges and to great jobs with real skills. These grads have options. AVTE specifically offers to bring a team of our members to work with Boston. Our team will include current and former regional VOTech school superintendents, Kevin Farr being one of them, a representative of the Massachusetts Association of Comprehensive High School Superintendents, representatives of the largest business organizations in the state, including the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, community-based organizations, unions, educational advocates, parent organizations, and quasi-government organizations. AVTE is committed to expanding quality VOTech programs in Massachusetts, and we are particularly interested in Boston. AVT has great access to the VOTech leaders who have turned their programs into sought-after opportunities. They would love to bring their knowledge, experience, and passion to Boston. I would love to work with you. Thank you.
Dennis Wilson, and after Dennis will be Penny Nickel. Oh. Trying to give a heads up who will be next is John Harris.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. City councilors, thank you for taking the time and being here at the, I like to call the Matadome, but Madison Park High School. My name is Dennis Wilson. I'm also a member of the co-chair of the Friends of Madison Park, and I would like to say thank you for those kind words that you mentioned about Miss Judith Baker, a young lady who was just passionate, committed, and also one of the, I should say, incredible English teachers that was here, establishing the college club, as well as the honor society and so many things. And just recently, the retired teachers scholarship fund that will be given to at graduation to many of the graduating students. I'm here disturbed, disappointed, and kind of outraged after 36 years of my working at Madison Park as a history teacher, also a dean of discipline, as well as a coach. And I've been able to experience the good times, the bad times, and unfortunately, it seems as though over the last 6 years, the ugly times. And I say that because Madison Park has been neglected over the last 20 years. Being the only Oak Tech school in the city of Boston, it's beyond me and unfathomable as far as how Madison has not been kind of embraced, supported, and provided all the necessary resources, okay, to make this the glowing, flourishing high school for our children in the city of Boston that it should be. I visited many Tech Folk schools myself, Worcester Tech, Blackstone Valley, Shawsheen, as well as Blue Hill Regional, and there's no reason why Madison Park and our children do not have the same resources, antiquated equipment, leaky roofs, and just to give you a little history, 6 years ago, which probably you've read it in the newspapers in terms of the leaky ceilings, the rodents running around our school, unfortunately, and these are the conditions our children have to try to learn and focus on education. So we fought the Friends of Madison to get $340,000 in books. We fought to get $310,000 in facilities and repairs, as well as $110,000 in infrastructure. And we met with 2 mayors, 3 superintendents, so many promises that, of course, have been broken. We continue to fight. We will continue to show the passion and love that we have for our children in our school. As I look around, I was born and raised here, graduate of Boston English High School years ago. Coming up on my 50th reunion, by the way, just want to say, very proud to say. And you see all these cranes throughout the city, and all these projects that go on throughout the city. This school and our children should be the feeder system and the lifeblood of the labor force. Why should they be going to other Tech Folk schools to get workers when we have them, when we should have them, and we do have them right here at Madison Park High School? Kevin McCaskill has done an outstanding job in the leadership that he's provided, connecting with different partnerships and things of that nature. We've got in 2012 an innovation plan, which was made up of several superintendents, teachers, business folks that came to Madison, spent 2 weeks here. I was part of that. And they were able to observe all the positive things that Madison had, and also, unfortunately, all the negative things that Madison had, and the potential that Madison had. Then that was put on a shelf, collecting dust. Then 2 years after that, there was a turnaround plan. Also, they brought a group of folks in, very capable, qualified individuals, that also pointed out the same thing that the innovation plan pointed out. What happened? That's sitting somewhere on a desk collecting, on a table or whatever, wherever it is, collecting dust. It is very disturbing to me, as I say. I love this community. I love working with children. I'm committed to working for this school, for this community, and for the children, the Friends of Madison Park, which many members are here this evening. So I want to thank you for taking the time. All children matter. I applaud my nephew graduated from Boston Latin as well. So, and I graduated from English High School when it was an exam school. So all schools are important, all children are important. But I just hope that this is not just a meeting of which we meet, We have several individuals that have a wealth of support and resources, and the band plays on. So thank you again for taking the time. We are in the fight and struggle to the end until Madison becomes what it should be, one of the hallmarks and one of the flourishing schools in the state of Massachusetts and New England. Thank you for allowing me to take the time.
I will just respond briefly to just Dennis's comments. This is not just a meeting. From our series, just starting here in the spring, and visiting a few schools, some of the unloading that we have to do with each other, and some of the research, we will come out of this on the other end with, I think, significant recommendations from our perspective. It's not just a one and done roadshow.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I am thrilled to hear that. That is the greatest news I've heard this evening. My name is Penny Nickel, and it really is Penny Nickel. I am the project lead for the intern program for MassDOT and MBTA. So as an employer, I wanted to add my testimony that this really works. That after the 7 weeks that they're with our organization, our carpenters, our electricians, our auto techs, that they actually see how their passion can translate into a career. And it's so exciting to see how originally, because they are a part of our system, that they thought that it was just about bus operators and train operators, but they can actually see the vast career in the transportation industry offers. There is a national crisis, a void with baby boomers graduating, that we have got to have trained students in these trades. It has got to happen. It's going to be catastrophic across this country of all transit organizations and DOTs. We have got to have trained kids, and we've got to plant those seeds early so that they know that this is a viable option. We have had kids from our intern program that have gone on to BFIT. They have gone on to graduate from Mass Bay. They have been accepted into the electrical union, and as we plant those seeds of what those opportunities are in the transportation industry, they can actually get excited about, okay, what are my next steps? More importantly, what Madison Park has to offer is that we need diversity in the trades. And this is a population that struggles to get into those trade opportunities. And so it's so exciting to be a partner with Madison Park to make those things happen. This summer, I interviewed a young man. He was actually from a different high school, but he had immigrated from Africa. And he was so excited about carpentry, but because he had not been a part of the Madison Park program, because for whatever reason he had been assigned to a different high school, he did not qualify to be a part of our program because I did not have a baseline to measure his skill level at. So he was not given that opportunity, whereas when we partner, we actually have juniors and seniors that are coming in, that they have experience, that they're contributing to our workforce and our workload during these 7 weeks of this internship. They're invited back, and we are expanding internship opportunities with MassDOT on the collegiate level. So as they progress and gain skills, then they are able to be groomed, in essence, for these types of positions. I do want to make some recommendations, though, as we support Madison Park. One thing that we're noticing as employers, and I've had conversations with other employers as well, that we need to address some issues as far as their educational needs and what we are needing and seeing in the workforce as being a gap. We need more technical writing. We need keyboarding skills. Keyboarding is not the same as texting. We need them to have Excel and Microsoft Office, not necessarily Chromebooks. We need them to have more math and science. We need to have a school that tracks their alumni so that we can actually engage conversations with their alumni. So we would, anyway, advocate for a better tracking system. I am concerned about resources being taken off and away from Madison Park to fuel other career and technical education programs at other high schools. If Madison Park was bulging at the seams with their programs, then I could see where offering those other opportunities at other high schools would be a good thing. But right now, we need to be supporting Madison Park and let these programs be supported with the resources that they need to grow and to be progressive. There's no reason, I mean, this is Boston, Massachusetts. We brag about Harvard and MIT. We should have the very best vocational school in the state. And we have some amazing schools that we can glean and get best practices from so that we can support the population that we need to have in the workforce. And I have lots of brochures about our program for those of you that are interested in what we're doing, but connecting the high school trades to the workforce and the MBTA and MassDOT, it works, and the kids are excited about actually coming back into our organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. John Harrell. And then following John will be Delaney Ryan, maybe, or Wesley Ryan?
Yes.
Well, okay, very good, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for paying attention to Madison Park. We greatly appreciate it here. I've been a teacher here for the past 17 years and just have recently transitioned into the vocational director. It's a role that I'm excited to perform, and be of service to the vocational staff. One thing about vocational teachers, they're truly impassioned with their trade, handing on their skills along to a younger generation. Those that are interested in their vocational programs, those students, generally perform well. By meaning performing well is that they grasp a passion for what they're doing, and it shows in the projects that they do and the work that they do. It shows in the competitions that we have those students in. We've won significant state competitions. We've gone to national events. Part of the problem is we don't have the volume of students performing at that level. Part of the reason that I believe in a recommendation I would make to the council is that we consider what makes some of the other schools very successful in the state. Some of the highest graduation rates and some of the highest MCAS performance. In those schools, I'd venture to guess, I don't know, I haven't had time to look at it, but it's like out of the 27 vocational schools, there's about 25 or more have an admissions policy. The admissions policy that are out there are not arbitrary. They're dictated by the state as to what can be included in, and they uniformly included through all those schools. Some people think it's exclusionary. It's not exclusionary. If you really delve in to look at it, we spent some time back in when we became a turnaround school into developing a turnaround school that was specific to our needs. And as the district looks at successful students and predicts what students will graduate, and they get a baseline on that, what do they look at? They look at attendance. Our priority in getting new students in here are ones that have a very good attendance, and that's given an awarded section of points. There's about 4 or 5 categories that are given awarded points for that student's history and success in middle school. Attendance espouses what vocational teachers are promoting. We're promoting employability skills. We have kids who come in and can be successful in the vocational areas, successful in academic areas, but who struggle with attendance and tardiness. So then we're put into a situation where we may have a kid who qualifies on an academic level, qualifies on a skill level, but there's a chronic problem with the attendance and tardiness. One of the greatest fear of anybody sending it, you make a connection with an industry It's a great opportunity. The kids that do well there are successful. But the greatest fear is that you send a child over there as a risk that the child is going to be late, the risk is the child is not going to show up, and then the employer closes the door on future students. It's my belief, we have a draft or a document that was presented to the school committee, I believe it was about 4 years ago, of an admissions policy. And it kind of got broken into the point where it was like, well, after we reach our capacity, then we'll look at those on a waiting list and apply that admissions policy. It's my belief, if you put in an admissions policy and get in these students who are serious about vocational education from the get-go, that you might have, in the initial couple of years, you would have a lower enrollment initially, but then those waiting lists will grow because you will see the success that these students will have. And then people, they will speak for themselves. You'll get the 70%. We're required to do 70% of our kids into placement after high school. If you look at our graduation rate and our dropout rate, if you look at our attendance rates and our tardiness rates, you'll notice that that's not achievable as we stand now. We do not want to exclude, and some of the comments that I have heard is, people are concerned about students with special needs. I can tell you right now, majority of our students who are special needs are some of our superstars here, and we cherish them. They offer consistency, they offer stability, and they're here every day, they're here on time. We're not excluding anyone. All we want is to take advantage. It costs more money per pupil at this school. We don't want to waste money. People will come, and we've noticed in classrooms that as the larger group becomes attentive and performing, some of those kids that may be on the fence, rather than going to the easy route, they jump on the challenge of being successful amongst others. Those are some of the reasons I think it would be beneficial for you to explore those at the schools that you're looking at, to consider the possibility of the process. It was mentioned by an earlier speaker that the way we do our per pupil assignment is different than how other vocational schools do theirs, along with the dollars that may follow that student, and does it go into a general pool. Those things I think should be looked at in order to enhance our resources here. One thing you do here as a teacher in a shop in Madison Park, you make best with what you have, and you still got the challenge and compete against those other schools. And we espouse Skills USA, where we take our kids and they do well against other kids in the state at the Skills USA. But we just don't have enough of our kids to bring to the Skills USA. So for those reasons, I'm in support of consideration of instilling a well thought out and planned admissions policy in Madison. Thank you.
Sean, if you don't mind, you just have a question from Councilor Campbell for you.
Yes.
Thank you, John. This might be a question that can also be answered by my fellow councilors, but just curious, in the presentation that you gave to the school committee 4 years ago related to this, or in other presentations or meetings with the district related to specifically admissions policy, because we've heard this from other people as well as a suggestion. Just curious, outside of this exclusion argument that people come up with, are there other arguments that they give you, or other reasons they give you for not wanting to do this?
Specifically, with regard to the presentation of the school committee, was after that really it was considered when I was searching for answers as to where did this admissions policy go. Yeah. It wasn't recognized or brought up forward into the turnaround plan. It was, again, this is third-hand information, is that it was then going to be applied to just the reserved, the waiting list students, of which it's going to take us a while to get there because we can accommodate at least 400 freshmen every year. I hate to see that if you look at the sort of demographic of our population over the course of the years, it goes down rather than maintains a nice steady history. And what I would project with the admissions policies, it would be completely the opposite. We'd start with a little bit lower, and then we'd grow back up to that 1,200 student. I mean, I've been here 17 years, and when I first started, we had about 1,400 kids, and we were humming. So, what was that? 500 freshmen. And so we had the numbers. They are possible. It's, I guess, if you will, it's the student who comes here. There are many students who more frequently now come here are unaware of exactly what the vocational piece is to this school. A lot of the teachers do a sort of informal summative assessment about, well, how did you end up here? How did you know about the school? I think there could be a multi-pronged approach. Mr. McCaskill is addressing the recruitment phase by putting our students out to other schools. It'd be nice if we did what we did and we can bring those students here. But there may be funding issues with buses and things like that. It's an area of support. But we work around these problems. And I think I strongly support and be more than willing to dig up that old admissions policy and provide that to you for information.
That'd be helpful. Just to follow up on that, so that was one of my questions, we need to get our hands on it. My memory is that it wasn't officially adopted by the school committee.
You're correct.
Or was it? Okay. And I'd be interested in your thoughts, and not necessarily now. I mean, you can feel free to answer, but how you do an admissions policy that doesn't exclude students with disabilities. And again, you don't have to answer it now, but because I heard you explicitly say that's not the intent, and that there's some of your superstars, and so I'm just wondering if there's a way to do it that would still kind of capture that population.
Yeah. There is no, if you will, intellectual determination of anybody who comes here within that admissions policy. So therefore, what you're looking at is the guidance counselor's recommendation. We're looking at attendance. We're looking at the student's performance in their grades and academics. So if you have a special needs student who has all B's, he's going to come up with a higher point value on his academic piece. If you have another student, a regular ed student, who's got B's, but he's got a lower attendance rate perhaps, he's going to lose points on that. And there's going to be a recommendation by a guidance counselor. And there are a number of other things that can be added. You can add an essay that student would describe their intents in coming here. And you can also have, a bit cumbersome, but you could also have an interview, which is also part of the state's allowable criteria for that. And I think that's a great place to start, is to look at that criteria that's shared with all the vocational teachers, vocational schools.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryan. And then next we would have Lou, you're up, you're on deck. Hello.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak this evening. My name is Wes Ryan. I'm part of the staff here at Madison Park. I'm one of the instructors in the Metal Fabrication Joining Technologies Department. And I was hired almost 5 years ago to bring a welding program back to Madison Park. I walked in my first day, I said, fantastic. I thought I was going to walk into a weld shop with all kinds of weld machines and enthusiastic students. What I walked into was a totally neglected area for 35 years. This school had an outstanding program in welding and machine shop. And for some reason, they closed the doors. Someone had the understanding and vision of the need of this vocational high school to supply this city with the skilled workers that are needed to have this city prosper and the community prosper. You look around the city of Boston at any given time, you see cranes everywhere, you see concrete trucks, you see block being delivered, you see lumber being delivered. This school is the impetus of all that happening. This is the foundation that's going to build the city and has been building the city. But we need the support, the funding, and the resources and the understanding to have that happen. Through the good graces of Mr. McCaskill, I don't know how he did it, all of a sudden, a tremendous amount of money showed up for the weld shop. The weld shop that we have here at this school is state of the art. There is nothing in any other school that will rival what we have and the opportunity we provide our students. We've been in the process for a couple of years of trying to put together a community program for after school, for weekends. The lights should never go out in that shop. They should burn bright 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I don't sleep, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll put an army cot down there and we'll get rolling. Because the demand is there, and the opportunity that we provide here at Madison Park for these students is not only providing them with a skilled trade, but also opening their minds to the opportunities they have within themselves in entrepreneurship. I was a welding contractor for many years. I did very, very well, and I just came to the point where it's time to give back. I closed my business. I took $150,000 a year cut in pay. I told my wife I loved her, and I came in here. And I can honestly say that the support from this administration and every teacher in here is unrivaled in any other school in Boston. And I don't even have to go in there to look at them. Everyone in here is dedicated. They have the vision of what needs to be done here. We just need the help and the cooperation, the funding, and the understanding. We face an extremely unique challenge here at the school because in the trades, well, basically in the academic areas, we have English learning students. And it's difficult to have them learn English to do well in the academics. Now, on top of them learning English, have them come into any different shop in this building, and they have to learn a second type of English. We have words and tools and things that half the people in this room, God bless you all, you're all intelligent, would have no idea what they are or what they mean. So we have a twofold mission here, to educate them to be English speaking and learning, as well as proficient in the trades. The opportunity for the students here at Madison Park and everyone in the community comes down to one simple thing. Show up every day. Do the best you can for you, not for me, not for your mother, not for your father, but for you. You will come out of here a bright, smart individual with the opportunity to get into any of the unions in Boston and make $100,000 a year right out of high school. You will have full medical insurance. You'll have full dental. If you get in when you're 18 years old, you work 30 years and you retire. You will retire a multimillionaire. Every student, every person in the city of Boston should have that opportunity. And we here at Madison are the only ones that can provide that. And the only way we can provide that is with the continuing support of the city and just moving forward. And we are the only vocational high school in Boston. We should be sending every single student out of here right to work. But if we don't have the support and the funding, we can't do it. We sure have the will, drive, and desire, the administration, and the qualified teachers. I've been a certified welder for 50 years. I was a member of the Iron Workers Union for 25 years. And that's where I learned my skills. I would have given my left arm for an opportunity like this when I was these students' age. There were no vocational high schools. Now, they're everywhere. But this school has been here a long time, and as previously said, it has been neglected, and it's time to step up the game and bring us into the 21st century where we belong. Because the demands of industry are changing constantly. Right now, there's a shortage of 1.6 million welders in the United States. Our bridges are falling apart. Our gas lines are falling apart. We have brand new buildings going up. We have nobody to weld them together. Can't use super glue. It takes a skill and a minimal amount of book learning to pass the welding test. It's all hands-on. It's all skill level. The opportunities through that is, I had a lot of students previously that wanted to go to college. And I said, God bless you, go. But here's what you can do. You go into the trades, work while you're in the trades, take night classes. In 6 or 7 years, you'll have your degree. You will make over $1 million, your education will be paid for, and then you have the experience in the trade to be a structural engineer, to be an architect, to be an electrical engineer. A million opportunities. It all starts right here in this school with the opportunity we provide, and that's what we want to keep pushing forward. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Lou Finfer, and I'm representing the Alliance for Vocational Technical Education and the Massachusetts Communities Action Network. I want to thank Councilor Savi George for focusing this work on Madison Park, and thank Councilor Wu and Councilor Janey, Councilor Campbell for their participation and interest in this issue. I live in Dorchester and have lived there since 1971 and been a community organizer out of Dorchester since 1970. Our organization discovered the issue of waiting lists about 6 years ago. We were working in New Bedford around educational reform and the high dropout rate in their high school, and one of the parents at our meeting said, gosh, I'm worried about my son. If he graduates from New Bedford High School, you know, what kind of a job can he get? So I went down to sign him up for the vocational school, thinking he'd at least get a skill if he graduated, and they told me there's hundreds and hundreds on the waiting list. So that was interesting. And then when we started checking around, we found out 500 in Worcester, 800 in Lawrence, 140 in Fall River, 318 in Springfield, 120 in Fitchburg, 316 in the school serving Brockton. These are the numbers on the waiting list. So there's something wrong with this picture when you have all these vocational schools in the gateway cities with that number of waiting lists. And in Madison, the waiting list is, the number of vacant seats is 500. So just look at Worcester, 500 in the waiting list, and here, 500 vacant seats. There's something really wrong with this picture. And as people said, it's, I know the gateway cities, people know, the economies are struggling there. But if you graduate from a vocational school, you get a decent job, $40,000, $50,000. But if you graduate from a district high school in those areas, and if you the reality is in Boston, if you graduate from a district high school, if you don't go to one of the exam schools and you don't go beyond the district high school, you're going into a $25,000 a year job, and you're not going to advance very much. So that we have 500 vacant seats when this economy could certainly employ them at really good jobs, because they're getting really good jobs in economies in other parts of the state, which are not anywhere near ours. It's just a tragedy, and it's been going on in years. Just count, that's 500 kids each year not getting that opportunity to have a decent paying job and what they could do for their families and what they could do to communities. And we can't, I know you're committed, I know everybody here is committed to changing this story and changing this picture. Our Alliance for Vocational Technical Education has had a Madison Park committee for 2 years. Kevin McCaskill attends our meetings, and we've worked on trying to understand the issues and support him, and we'll continue to do that. And the other staff here, we decided we needed to step it up beyond support for equipment at the state level. So we wrote a letter, we enlisted some conversations, and we formed a working group with the Boston Teachers Union and the Friends of Madison Park, and we addressed a letter to the mayor asking him to meet with us. The first response, we ended up meeting with Rob Consalvo, the superintendent's chief of staff, and then Superintendent Chang was asked to go. So we came back again about meeting, and now we were supposed to meet with acting superintendent Laura Perreel in about 3 or 4 weeks to bring these issues up. We're also going to continue to try to meet with the mayor, because he holds a lot of say in terms of what commitment he can give to it. And it's really important what you're doing, because you're spotlighting it, and the powers that you have is going to make the superintendent make it more of a priority, and it's going to make the mayor more of a priority. So it's really important what you're doing. Obviously, the list of what needs to be done is pretty evident about money in the budget, equipment, curriculum help, finding more business partners, having a more comprehensive recruitment system. That they're doing is good, but you got to get out there to to sixth graders, and you got to get out to their parents to know about this as an opportunity so they can think about it, be prepared for it, and then actually apply in the 8th grade when they apply. But all that can be done, and you know, and Dennis has outlined that, you know, they were here in 2012, and then they're back in 2015 with another study, and I think we're all committed to changing the picture, and it just got to be done because it's just not. I just remember that picture, all those schools with waiting lists, and our school here with vacant seats. We got to change that picture. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you, Lou. Next I have Jonathan Rodriguez. And after Jonathan will be Melissa Saunders.
Cool. I'm Josh. Maybe. Hi, I'm Jonathan Rodriguez from Boston Teachers Union. I'm an organizer. I just really want to just offer a couple of points, really short. We're really glad that this conversation is happening and moving forward. And I believe Councilor Sabi George, when it's more than just this one, that it will be a continuation of conversation. I just wanted to mention a couple of points and raise up a couple of issues. So Mass Budget had a great report a couple of years ago. It's called Skills for Our Future. I would recommend everyone in this room, if you haven't already, check it out. There was an update in 2017 as well. In that report, and I know it's different because regionals are different, but it cites a number that Madison was never at, right, around 15,000 per pupil. And yes, last year, the budget included the opportunity index in the per pupil numbers for Madison, so you might see a number that's closer to that, 14,000 something per pupil. But let's take that out because that's for partnership, right? Before that, it was about 12,700, right? And that makes a difference, right? That makes a difference, 12,700 versus 15,000 in our regionals. That makes a difference in how many staff you can have in the building. That makes a difference in equipment. So something to consider and something to consider. It may not need to be at 15,000, but what is our number that we're adding as vocational, the appropriate amount? I just wanted to raise up as well the strength of this community, of the school community, of our educators, of our parents, of our students. As you can see, it is strong, it is rooted. There are hundreds and maybe thousands of alumni in the city that would come to bat for this school. Use them. I encourage you to really call upon them to raise this school up. And in just speaking for me, Jonathan, I never want to live and see the experience of what happened a couple of years ago with the scheduling, when just a mile down the road at BLS, that would never happen, right? The neglect, as someone mentioned earlier, of the school community has gone too long. I'm happy to hear about the welding. I used to work with students that was exactly in that program, was telling me the stories. I'm happy to hear that more equipment and state-of-the-art equipment arrived. But I just encourage everyone, we are here to be partners in this effort. And I will not be remiss to point out pilots and our universities and hospitals. How can we leverage our partnerships and the growing footprint of these institutions and the fair share contribution they must have to our school communities, including Madison, right? We are literally in their backyard, or they are in our backyard, rather. And the last point I will make is just on capital investments, and the Mass Budget report has the figures on that as well. I think Essex Regional Vocational Tech was $126 million in building costs, right? Worcester was over $100 million. That may sound expensive, but look at the rewards now to that community. And I'm not saying it has to be that here at Madison. We already have a building, but there's definitely steep capital costs in the beginning or when you need to renovate. And I'm curious to see the Build BPS report and coming developments of that, how Madison plays a role in that Build BPS and how we renovate this building. Thank you.
Jonathan, I just want to echo you are there in our backyard. I wrote that down because that's
it's a good note
Yeah.
especially for you to make. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Because sometimes we do say the other way. We got to remember. Melissa Saunders. And then following Melissa on deck, we have Louis. You're up next.
Hi, I'll try to make this brief and not ramble. My name is Melissa Saunders, native of Dorchester, BPS alumni. I attended the Edward Everett Elementary, then the John W. McCormick Middle School. After that, I was admitted to Boston Latin School. I transferred to another course to college, high school, when it was located in Brighton. And I am actually a graduate of the McKinley South End Academy. I mentioned that last point because kind of what I wanted to bring up was currently now I am at the Harvard Extension School. And I've noticed this throughout the years that there's sort of this false dichotomy that a vocational education is somehow at odds with a liberal arts education. It doesn't make much, let me go back a little bit. Bless Boston Latin, te schola in Matrim, but me earning magna cum laude on a national Latin exam has not put any money into my pocket. It has not brought me any economic opportunity. I think, please quote me if I'm wrong, or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the median wealth of Black families in Boston is $8. So roughly the cost of a steak and cheese sub from UG's is our, and I really would like to see, as far as, I think it's amazing and it's really important that these conversations are happening. I have a sibling who is a graduate of Madison Park. A couple years ago, in 2016, I was attending classes at the Wentworth Institute of Technology to get into the trades. Two of my teachers, who were really awesome, also teach at Madison Park. They're also members of IBEW Local 103. So it is my intention to obtain my master's degree from Harvard while I get my master electrician's license. And these two are not at odds. I would just hope that the opportunities that a school like Madison Park provides don't have to be it's not a class stratification when it comes to other schools. This school is just as important as Boston Latin. It actually, one of the, around sort of Dudley Square up that way, there's, they have the Tradeswomen Tuesdays, and they have some of the Pathways pre-apprenticeship programs. And I was talking to one of the, I forget his name, he's kind of cute, we were talking, obviously you're going to find somebody from Dorchester everywhere you go. And he mentioned that he was a graduate of Boston Latin, and he's one of the folks, I can't even remember what his actual role is, because I was busy looking into his eyes, but he's a Boston Latin School graduate who is someone who works in the trades. This shouldn't seem like, oh my gosh, why? Or even some of the sort of, the sad, you went to Boston Latin, but you finished at the McKinley? Yes, I did. Kudos to me, shout out to me. I got a high school diploma at all. I still go back and visit my McKinley teachers. There's a giant Mel King mural there. Love walking through the neighborhood. It's these things are not at odds. Vocational education. A little ways back, move back a little bit. When I was at another course to college, high school, I was a ward of the state of Massachusetts. I was in foster care. My first job, I had 2 jobs. I had through the vocational training program at the Home for Little Wanderers, the Brighton site, I learned administrative skills that were immensely helpful to me. It gave me a sense of purpose. I had a lot of, sort of inconsistency moving around, not a lot of stability, not a lot of mentors in my life. And I was able to start to, get practice of what it would take to go out and have a job. At the same time, I was after having written to, the paper now is called Dick Boston, at the time it was called The Weekly Day. I became the youngest employee of this newspaper's history. I was 16 years old. I started writing a column. And so A little while after that, I earned a scholarship to Simon's Rock. I'm not just here to brag about myself. This has a point, I promise. I earned a scholarship to attend the Simon's Rock workshop in Great Barrington. I came back, I did the Harvard Crimson Summer Journalism Academy, and I returned back to my job working in the office. These, again, I just want to stress that a vocational technical education is not somehow lower. I don't see how anyone who, there's a way one of my electrical teachers, Mr. Norris put it, that when he got his union card, his father told him, "You just won the lottery if you want." How is that not an intelligent move to go to a career where, I looked, we went over the pay grades, over $100,000 a year with a master electrician's license, and the ability to not only help myself, move myself up out of poverty, but to put other people on, as the kids say, to build up our community. I now have a dream of both, teaching the classics to incarcerated people, and having an electrical company that I own in Dorchester, bringing opportunities to be given back to your community, which is always usually the goal. You put yourself on so you can put other people on. And again, a vocational technical education is not at odds with a liberal arts education or anything else that we deem hoity-toity. Great, Harvard's great. I'm so grateful. Shout out to the city of Boston. They're putting me through school on a scholarship. The snacks at all these functions, fantastic. So many cheeses, gorgonzola, Gouda, you name it. But what is it? How am I putting myself on and not giving back to the community? That is honestly the reason why I'm standing here. My mom passed away when I was 11. My dad is dealing with a terminal illness now. I had a lot of flux in my life, but just something as simple as having a job, having a known set of skills, it also contributes to your self-esteem. It's easy to feel forgotten when you're lingering inside of the foster care system, wondering why you cannot have a home in the place that you call home. To being able to get up, go to work, have skills that I can then, start to bring myself up with, it's not at odds with me getting my educations. It shouldn't be but Madison Park should not be seen as something lesser than even the crown jewel of BLS, we're in each other's backyards. We should all be working together. There's such a wealth of human capital and resources, but there's also a wealth of resources. Okay, I'm not going to get too in my feelings here, because I know y'all want to get dinner and such, but I just want to kind of end with this. I'm looking at a New York Times article. It's about a car mechanic. His name is Jorge Oldón. He invented the Oldón device. Well, and I'll just read a little bit of this. The idea came to Jorge Oldón as he slept. Somehow, he said, his unconscious made the leap from a YouTube video he had just seen extracting a lost cork from a wine bottle to the realization that the same parlor trick could be used to save a baby stuck in the birth canal. Mr. Oldón, 59, an Argentine car mechanic, built his first prototype in his kitchen using a glass jar for a womb, his daughter's doll for a trapped baby, and a fabric bag and sleeve sewn by his wife as his life-saving device. The rest of the story, and I encourage you to look it up, tells the story of the Oldón device, which is used to save babies while they're being born. It has some kind of suction, and it saved a bunch of lives. It's intervened in a lot of births where the baby has to be turned. See, I can't even explain the mechanics of this, but I hope that people would take the time to just look at this article and realize that it's my dream to be able to invent something, to have the epitome of something useful that maybe save someone else's lives. And again, I'm not talking down on Boston Latin, K-Skull and Mottram, go Wolfpack, forever. But I think we need to all readjust our views about how that is the only place, because it's sending people right to Harvard, that is just the one way that we're going to get the innovation from great minds. It can come from anywhere. It can come from an Argentinian car mechanic taking a nap and playing with his daughters and their little baby dolls, oh, that's so cute. And it can come from something like that. And this is somebody in the trades that has contributed, and this is just one example. There's so many other examples out there, and we have a chance to bring those stories to life and make those examples if we put the right resources and the shmoney towards Madison Park High School. This is not some outlier school. We're right here smack dab in the community. We're in Roxbury, not far from where Boston's industrial manufacturing epicenter was. We take a walk over yonder, abandoned factories galore. It used to be the Berwick Cake Factory, Whoopie Pies everywhere, Boston Cigar Factory. There's so much rich history here, and it's the trades and vocational technical education are not at odds. They're not at odds. Let's get rid of the stigma, get rid of that false dichotomy, and hopefully I'll see everyone when I'm at my Harvard commencement, and I'm also joining IPW Local 103. Thank you.
I will say one example of where we have shown historically that they're not at odds is Boston Technical High School, which no longer exists. I happened to graduate from there and had a very robust, well-rounded academic education that sent me to college, but also one that included some time in the sheet metal shop here, which was once the Humphrey Center, learning about electronics, learning how to draft, learning how to draw plans and read plans. They are not at odds with each other, and I really appreciate you sharing so much of your personal story to really demonstrate that and hit that home. Thank you. I don't know how you follow that, but go for it.
Very carefully. Very thorough. Firstly, good evening. My name is Louis Lisa. I'm a member of the Friends of Madison. I'm also part of Garrison Tribe Neighborhood Association and the Prince Hall Masons. And first, I'd like to thank all the councils for taking the time to come back to Madison and to hold a public hearing to hear what people have to say about Madison Park. I need to start off in a very personal way also. In 1967, I graduated from Alexander Hamilton Vocational Technical High School in Brooklyn, New York. I wanted to graduate from Brooklyn Tech, but I wasn't smart enough to get in. There's no question about that. They worked a lot harder. I graduated in 1967 as a new father and husband. I had a endorsed vocational diploma, which means I was in the vocational technical program. I didn't get the technical part because I didn't pass the English Regents. If you know New York City public school system, they're very strict about these Regents diplomas, and it made a big difference too in terms of going to college. But I did graduate a certified draftsman. I worked under Mr. Cohen, who I remember to today, and Mr. Kravitz, and so in 2 hours a day on the boards, I was able to take the New York State test for drafting, for architectural drafting. We also had programs in mechanical drafting, electrical work, and things of that nature, but it made a difference for a new father and for a man who wanted to continue to go on to school. I took those skills and opportunities that it provided, and the skills were not so much the academic skills because I had a background and went all the way up to trigonometry and did science and physics and things of that nature. But the skills was understanding the trade in terms of drafting and what it gave you in terms of insights and understanding how things work. And I used those throughout my life because I didn't stay in architecture, even though I went to Harvard School of Design from Bed-Stuy to Harvard. I decided to go into city and regional planning, but all the skills that I learned in technology and all the training I received in academia kept me and held me well in my life's course of being able to understand various areas of opportunities and activities. And so I'm standing here today to say first, where there's no vision, the people perish. That comes from scripture. There has to be leadership that sees and understands the importance of vocational technical education in society in general. The other piece comes from Frederick Douglass, who says, learn a skill or die. That he knew back in 1863 that if a young woman or young man did not have a skill, they could not do well in society. You have to have something that sustains you past the academics, past the arts, and past the music, past the things that look good. You have to, even if you're just a seamstress, Or if you make flags, because we always thought that Betsy Ross was a flag maker, she actually made bombs for the revolution, but people didn't know that was her skill. But the understanding was that she had a skill. The understanding that our nation is built on people with skills, on engineers and carpenters and plumbers and scientists. And up until 1900, there were so many independent people with skills that built this nation. The entrepreneurs in our society came from communities like Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, the Irish people coming in, Asian people coming in, all of them came with skills that built this nation. Somehow someone sold some of the bill of goods that says, if you have a skill, maybe you're not doing as well in society as everyone else. And so I had one teacher named Mr. Yancey who used to say, you know, if you don't pay attention in this class, you're going to wind up becoming a longshoreman. I disliked that man because he discouraged me from becoming a longshoreman. All my friends who became longshoremen are like your friends who are millionaires, they've already retired and everything. It's important to understand you need a skill in society. And so I'm here to say that Madison Park is suffering from a lack of vision by some people who are headmasters and a school department that don't get it. This city spent $21 billion on the South Boston waterfront. We're spending $5.6 billion in North Station. We're going to spend another $22 billion in building Roxbury. Every one of those jobs have a component here in Madison Park. They spent $21 billion to do the Third Harbor Tunnel, and not one student from Madison Park was included in that process. That does not make any sense whatsoever. Where was the vision? Why not? If you're going to build the buildings next door, if you've got a medical facility next door, if you've got more GDP down on Longwood Avenue than you have in all of India, why not our children? Why not our city and our community? I am so glad the city council's here, but the school department needs to be here. They need to take the walk to this building. They need to understand and see what the potential is for this city, but not just for the city. It was already explained. I sit on a number of boards and commissions throughout this city, in the state, in the country. I've lived and traveled in Europe and Africa, and I can tell you, the demand for people with skills far outweighs our capacity to provide them. I sit on the board of the National Grid the generation I come up in is gone. They're passing away. They've retired. Who's taking their place? The infrastructure of Massachusetts is failing because there's no one to replace it. The skills that come out of these vocational technical schools, like Madison Park, is what's going to sustain our society. If we don't put the resources in, if we don't say that in the $1 billion budget that's going into Boston Public Schools, we have to make Madison Park work, we will set ourselves up so that there's failure. The situation that's going on in Andover, Massachusetts, is a failure. People not understand you don't have enough engineers to look at those pipes before you start putting a load on that pipe. But they didn't understand. When they took the business over from whoever was controlling it, their engineers should have ran that line, walked and understood that the infrastructure could not hold the load. They didn't have enough people. They shortcut themselves. They now have a different problem. We have the same problem in the streets of Massachusetts, every city, including Boston. National Grid, Edison, all the other Eversource, they all have the same problem. HVAC, all these buildings going up, we all have the same problem. All the green housing technology. Here is where we solve the problem, by creating opportunity, putting the resources in, saying to the school committee, make sure you create a program in Madison Park that lets young people know at the Timothy School and over Orchard Park elementary schools that there is an opportunity here for them to stay a part of the city of Boston by coming in and getting into these programs and letting them know that the program in nursing, the program in dental work, is going to take them far. The demand for people with skills in those areas is not being met. All the doctors are coming to the cities, but in the rural areas, including Massachusetts, there's a high demand for dental technicians, for nurse practitioners. A lot of people are suffering because we're not producing the resources, even though we have the capability within our grasp right here in the school to do that. A young lady, a young man graduating in a health careers program can take their skill to a rural part of this state and actually start doing business. So the point we have to add is just the business part of understanding. You can't swap and pay for dental work, but the opportunity is there. The need is there, the demand is there. So what I'd like councils to do is to be able to sit down with the school department, which we have very little control over, and the leader of the school department, which is unfortunately not the superintendent, but the mayor, and say, we need to see the resources going into Madison Park. We need to reward the teachers who are doing a good job. We need to say to the students, here the opportunity, and start at the earliest possible time. Where there's no vision, people perish. You can enter Mass Maritime. A person from Bourne can tell you, no one graduates from Mass Maritime not making $100,000. No one graduates. They can go in industry or they can go in the military. They all go out with commissions. We have that capability. We have 21 colleges in the 1 mile square radius of Boston. Northeastern and all the other colleges should be joined at the hip with Madison. We have a program tied into now Roxbury Community College that's going gun blazes. It's now in 3 other schools. We need to expand that program, make the opportunity available, and the school department needs to make the resources available. We need to make sure that our headmasters and our executive director have the security of knowing they can get their job done. And then we need to use the skills that we have on the city council and that we now will have in Congress to reach in for the resources that are there. Space program, science programs, health programs, all the programs on the federal level have money that is available to reach to young men and women to inform them the opportunities. So in the 5th and 6th grade, they are seeing the opportunities before them. You're showing them that they will, in 10 years, be flying out of here. They will be driving those spaceships, not because they're needed, because AI is going to change a lot of that, but artificial intelligence cannot get you where you need to be. We still have to have humans to get them there. And so therefore, the opportunity and the government has the resources, and we've not applied for those resources. And so we have to show vision. Learn a skill or die. We tell our young people no matter what they want to do, they can study Nietzsche, they can study Feuerbach, they can study Lowe, they can study anything they want in philosophy. But without a skill, you die. You may not die physically, but I can tell you when you land in Brussels, or you land in Germany, or Bosnia, or Russia, or any place else in the world, you have to bring a skill with you. And for all the nations of the world that are advancing and doing well, you look and see where we are in the United States and what we're doing with technical skills. So it's important. We have to make sure that we have an admission policy program that reaches out and touches young people, that we have the funding that's necessary to get the job done, and that we continue to make this shining star in the city of Boston, this resource, continue to grow. I'm asking you to do that because I went from Bedford-Stuyvesant, tough little part of town, to Harvard University, to the White House, to NATO, back home again, and I'm here to say it happened because I had a very good training and understanding, a very basic skill. And that skill was looking beyond who I was, and the vision, the ability to look beyond makes the difference. And that's what they get in vocational technical high schools. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I have to run to another meeting in Mattapan. I have to ship something, but I will stay in contact with my colleagues, of course. I want to thank everyone for their public testimony, and I get the sense of urgency, and that we can't keep wasting time. So thank you, guys.
Next, we have T. Michael Thomas. And following T. Mike is Latrell Pickney Chase.
Hello everyone. It's always a pleasure to see you guys, but there's a lot to say, but I'll try to think of it. I'm a graduate of actually the Humphrey Center, and I'm a sheet metal worker by trade. I got in the union about a month out of high school. I bought my first house, triple decker in Dorchester. I was like 22 or 23 years old. My second house, I was about maybe early 30s, but I started a program called People's Academy. Trades and traders. You know the reason why. There's a lot of violence on the street, but I have to talk to you guys because they already know of the program. But and this is why we need to support them, to put pressure on the city, the mayor, especially the governor, who 2 weeks ago in Savin Hill said he allocated $15 million to vocational training. And I stood up and I said, after everyone was finished applauding, I said, well, Dorchester, Roxbury, and Mattapan, and People's Academy didn't get one dime. I fund People's Academy out of a triple-decker in Dorchester, which we've been around for 12 to 15 years. Our work has been on the History Channel, Modern Marvels. We've gotten an architectural design award. We work on multi-million-dollar homes, and it's funded in-house. And for numerous time, years after year, we're beginning to see billions in construction. I personally could say I could walk in any direction, a block to 4, and I could identify a building that I put copper on. And to think, this is the bone-chilling thing. A group did a study. I'm the only coppersmith of color that they have found. Not in Massachusetts. Who was far beyond as you possibly could. And the union will tell you, they call me the copper man. The reason I'm saying all of this, especially in Massachusetts, you have a lot of historic properties. Every college owns over 400 buildings. Most of us, we walk around, we're oblivious to what's out there. You can't get away from Mother Nature. The best thing to protect the exterior of a building is the copper. Like the Statue of Liberty, it lasts 100, 300, 400, 500 years. There are so much properties in the residential sector and the commercial sector that needs to be addressed. Everyone's focusing on the cranes, which is great. But all these houses and buildings, and there are historic law that whatever was there before has to be maintained. Even in the union, and I'm a product of the union, but like I said, I started a pre-apprentice program to get folks trained to filter them towards the union. The work is there. My program has a training and a manufacturing. There are clients that will wait for us a year in advance to come and work on your property. That's how much it's in need. And when I sit here and I see what's going on, that I've offered to buy land from the city and state so I could build a training component, work together with every and all officials, because I know the manpower is needed. I recently went into South Bay, as I did in other prisons, to try to, have a conversation. The sheriff was receptive. It's costing the taxpayers between $47,000 and $50,000 a year out of your pocket to house an inmate. Think about that. But you teach them a trade between $15,000 and $25,000. Not only that, imagine these individuals are working with the homeowners, the business owners, high quality at a low cost. I just went out to Chelmsford on this historic property, and the guy gave these what we call a fly line, prima donnas, like something like $30,000. They were painters to do copper work, and the guy, it's been a couple months and he hasn't seen them. Think about that. The work is there. I can speak for these elected officials because they support me, I know personally. But it's going to take more than them to seriously get the mayor, which the mayor is, he's a good guy. But he needs that extra push from us, especially the governor. He has that power. He has a bigger purse. And if we all stood together, we got to save our kids. Because why not teach them a trade? The work is needed. And don't forget, support the People's Academy. Thank you.
Latrell coming up, thank you. We have Latrell coming up, and then we also have Patrick Sullivan, who I missed earlier. And then if anyone else was planning on testifying, this is your last opportunity to sign up before we wrap it up.
Good evening. My name is Latrell Pinckney Chase. I am a teacher at Madison Park High School, and for some reason I just got incredibly nervous, so please forgive me. I just wanted to speak, yes, me. I just wanted to speak hopefully from the teacher perspective, and it's already been touched upon, but for me, one of the greatest things that's lacking is we all tell our students how amazing they are, how great they are, and they are, but the condition of this building tells them otherwise. The lack of resources, and I'm not advocating for a new building, but the building needs repair. And Ms. Dickens and Mr. McCaskill, in my opinion, do great with working with the budget that they receive. But the truth of the matter is there's an elephant in the room that we have not talked about, and that is that you cannot run a vocational school in the same manner that you run other Boston public schools. It just doesn't work. And so I heard you all mention that you had visited or will be visiting other schools, and some of the other speakers mentioned other schools such as Worcester Tech, Blackstone Valley, even Assabet Valley, and the greatest difference really is not in the caliber of the student, it's not necessarily in the admissions policy, although we need one, it really is the quality of the building. A lot of times when we take students out to Skills USA, which is one of our competitions, I've often had my students get excited when they see the space and then be very sad because they don't have a space like that. And so although there's Perkins funding, which certainly helps with technology, Perkins funding cannot be used for furniture and things that we really need. And I think that one of the things that is really missing is that the people that are in the room that work at Madison, the teachers that work here, specifically the voc teachers and the academics, we make it happen. And sometimes because you make it happen, you get overlooked. Because if you're doing great things with little, well, we'll just keep giving you little. And that just doesn't work anymore. And it's already been mentioned about the millions of dollars that have been poured into the city, but we don't really need to look any further than right down the street at a state-of-the-art building that was constructed for adults to have a beautiful space to live in, while our children do not have that same space. They don't even get the luxury of matching desks and chairs. And so I feel like the Boston Public Schools really need to look at the way that they deal with Madison Park if it remains in the Boston Public Schools and recognize that you can't run it in the same way. Thank you.
Patrick Sullivan's coming up, and then we have Bobby Jenkins, and then Joe Smith.
Hi, good evening. I'll keep it brief. I know everybody wants to get home with that dinner. Thank you to the panel. Thank you for letting me speak, and thank you for doing this. Teachers and staff, I tip my cap. I tell you, you're doing the yeoman's work here, and it's needed. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I work for Vice President and Apprentice Coordinator for the Printers and Pressmen's Union. Right now, I grew up in Dorchester, I live in West Roxbury now, I have kids in the Boston Public School. Right now, people say print is dead. In certain aspects of it is, but in other aspects of it, it's growing. We have employers calling us every week. They want young people to come into the place of work. They're investing in new equipment. They don't have it. We need young people. It's a great opportunity to connect with Madison Park, the students here, bring them into the printing trade. We represent over 700 employees from anywhere from silkscreen T-shirts to big manufacturing plants out in Western Mass. I recently had a Heidelberg salesman for a press company tell me, if you can give me a young person and he'll learn the business, he could write his own ticket. He could name his price. Young people aren't going into this trade anymore. For some reason, and it's our own, we're turning our kids away from the trades. And that goes through all trades. It's more software based now. When I learned trade, it was more mechanical. The way that presses are designed now, it's more software driven. It's a digital inking system. It's really complicated. We want young people to get involved. And Local 3 is here for you guys, and thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bobby Jenkins, City Councilor. You all know me, I call you all the time. You know that. I know all your staff members on their first name basis, have their emails and have their telephone numbers. And it's great that, you know, you guys, you made the attempt to put Madison Park on, to put the school department, BPS, and the school committee on notice on doing your own investigation of what's going on in Madison. And I can tell you this, I'm class of 1978, graduated I was the first class to graduate out of this brand new spanking building. But it really disheartens me when the district only gave Madison, I'm also a school site council, so I'm privy to information and know what's going into my alma mater, where I'm president of the Alumni Association as well. So I'm very involved in Madison. But it really disheartens me when I see a football field out here that is in terrible need of repairs. I'm also a football official. There's divots at one end of the goal line. I'm out here on Sundays when there's Pop Warner teams coming. We got to press in down by the other end of the goal line because the field's coming up. And when the mayor and when the city talks about this build BPS, they should definitely invest in Madison and make sure that $100 million that Madison is on the top of the list because Madison is over 40 years old. So they definitely need some work done in, like the teacher just said, like the instructor just said. But also, too, is investing in Madison. Giving $17,000 last year from the district, but Madison gets more money outside the partnerships. And even the governor and the lieutenant governor gave Madison over $100,000 a few years ago. That is a slap in the face. That is really, really, that needs that the interim superintendent needs to know, as well as the school committee. They need to come to Madison and hold a hand in hand at Madison so the students, parents, teachers, and community folks like me, community-based organizations, they can hear it because, you know me, I've testified on Madison's behalf after school committee meetings. I'm getting ready to go here right now to the superintendent's because my organization, Boston Education Justice Alliance, we've got a seat at the community advisory. So I'm going to be there. Madison Park's always on the tip of my tongue, #1, because, you know, we need more voices to definitely fight for the school. The school is a gem. It was put in here for a reason. Another thing I'm going to say real brief is that you have hospitals, colleges that are in our own backyard, and none of our kids can get a piece of all that. All the construction is going on right over there at Whittier Street. You know, hundreds of billions of dollars of, you know, investments. But then it goes back to what Jonathan Rodriguez said about the pilot tax. Universities and hospitals, if they paid their fair taxes, the city revenue could go up to $200 to $400 million, just right there. But, you know, again, property owners, we own properties, if we don't pay our taxes, we get a lien, we get foreclosed on, and then the mayor comes up with this for parking, $100 if your car gets towed, that goes into city revenue. Okay, that's a lot of cars to tow for revenue when you can just go after the universities and the colleges and hospitals and make them pay their fair taxes. Madison should be on the top of the list for Build BPS. And you can go online and look at Madison and what they said about Build BPS. But again, and also admissions policy. There's no way you can't tell me that a parent of a kid that's in middle school, if they know what their child can make, you know, not discourage them from going to college, but talk to them what they can make, going to a vocation, they're getting 2 degrees. So, I mean, they're getting 2 diplomas, but most importantly, they're getting that diploma where they're going to have to make the money in order to live in their own neighborhood. That is a travesty as well, but still, they have a better shot at Madison than they do anywhere else. Thank you.
And I think last will be Joe Smith. Anybody else? No pressure, Joe.
They want to get out of here, I think. Hi, I'm Joe Smith. I'm just a neighborhood person, but I was one of the original 12 planners of the Humphrey Center. So in 1978, 12 of us got together at the request of the school committee, at the request of the superintendent, your dad included, and we came out here, worked full-time for almost 2 years. We did nothing but equipment, curriculum, staffing, and the city, in fact, gave us that time. They gave us that opportunity because Voc Ed was important. And Voc Ed wasn't doing well in 1978. We closed Boston Trade School, and we closed the Pilot OFC. And what we thought this was going to be a landmark in the city. We went to businesses and we brought them in as advisory council. We had a lot of spirit going in the ABC. We had a lot of energy in this building. And you know, I heard people saying they're going out looking at other buildings. People were coming to us to look because we were doing something new. Small learning communities, competency-based vocational education. People came to see what that was and how that meant and how we were adapting it to the city. I don't know what happened, but something happened. I read the papers as a retired person now, and I can't tell you how distressed I was at that scheduling snafu. And I wrote a letter to the Globe, and it was published, and I'm thankful I got my 2 cents in. But something happened. We had unapproved people running this building, people who didn't have credentials teaching in these classes. We had we have leadership in this system that's not credentialed. What is happening in Boston? We're not donating the kind of money, dedicating the kind of money we need to this building. There's no complex formula to this. We need competent, certified, or approved staff. We need adequate money for equipment, some of which can be very expensive, and supplies. And we need students who attend. Of course, that's another thing I did in my career as director of attendance. So I can tell you a lot about what our kids weren't doing in terms of attendance, but they weren't doing a lot. And we need partners in the community, and partners who speak for this building, who are proud of this building. And the biggest thing you need of all is marketing. You have to market this building to this community. We still have people in this community, and I would bet in this room that don't think they want their own kids or their kids' kids or to be Vokies. They want them to be Boston Latin or go to college or whatever. We need to commit ourselves that vocational education is a good way to go for our kids. And we need to advertise that, and we have to be vigorous in our advertising. I want to see Student of the Week in cooking in the newspapers. I want to see Student of the Week in electricity. I want to see Student of the Week in welding. I want to see Student of the Week in carpentry. We never hear about these kids. We never give them the recognition they deserve. And we all need recognition. I'm tired of seeing Student of the Week at Boston Latin and all of that. Yeah, of course we have lots of talented academic kids, but we have lots of kids in this building who fix our cars, who connect our plumbing, who do all the kinds of things that we need. Living in Hyde Park, I know, and working with a neighborhood association, all I'm ever seeing online is, anybody recommend a plumber? Anybody recommend a carpenter? I mean, people are looking for the graduates of this school. So kind of, let's get it together. Let's all get behind it. And my commitment to you folks is, I talked to a cadre of the original planners, some of whom are still here, and they would love to have a special meeting with you, give you all some ideas about the commitment, the zeal, the passion that we had in 1978, and see if we can bring it to 2018 and help resurrect this place that can be really a place of greatness for our kids. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. I think we've got all of our, we've got one more. Come on up quickly. Sorry.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Freeman, and thank you for allowing me this last minute excuse me. I'm speaking on behalf as a parent of a special needs kid who also is in ESY, known as Extended School Year. Even though he is out there and too shy to come in because he doesn't want to do the talking, I will speak on behalf whether they're enrolled here for whatever vocation there is or during ESY. If this place wasn't here, they'd be at a loss. Our special needs kids need to learn skills just as well as everyone else. It gives them hope. It gives them confidence. It gives them independence. Skills to be learned. To be out there in mainstream, in spite of how mainstream looks at them.
So I just want to thank everyone for being here with us today and sticking it out to the end. A special thanks to Ron Cobb from Central Staff for setting up and being here. To my staff, Jessica Rodriguez and Nadine Jean, who are with us. A few takeaways that I just want to share quickly that really do mirror and enforce some of what I've learned on our tours, with our conversations, with just doing a little bit of digging on my own, is that the staff here is absolutely a dedicated staff and a well-respected staff, especially from the inside, and that's really important, although it does make me sad when I think about any members of our school communities feeling that they need to say out loud, pay attention to us and to ask for that. That makes me sad to hear any member of a school community feeling that they are neglected or ignored, especially when that person is putting the kids first. That might have been from Mr. Ryan down there. But some of the themes that I've heard throughout my tours at the schools and through conversations have been about the importance of making sure that we not just have partnerships, but strong, deep, meaningful partnerships. And I think to add to that, partnerships with people who are proud to be partners of the work that's happening here. Connecting to real resources, both financial resources, but real employment opportunities for our youth, and building on what's already here and growing what's already here. And then that application process, how we hear that over and over again, and it's not a way or a method to exclude kids, but a way to make sure that there's a population of students here that want to be here, but that we're also doing what we need to recruit them to know that they want to be here. So it's not that they're just arbitrarily applying, but there's a desire and there's a connection with students in middle school across the city of Boston that want to apply here. And Dawn and Lou, thank you for sharing some of that waitlist data. When we have talked about this formally at the City Council during some of our budget hearings earlier this spring, one of the things that we have done as a city, unfortunately, is spend a lot of money to send Boston kids outside of the district to go to school. We should have them wanting to come to us and us saying, sorry, we're full, but here's a wait list for you. That would be wonderful. I think it's also important, as noted today, that we're improving, strengthening our college partnerships, our employer partnerships, that we're really making sure that the work that's happening across the city in construction, but also in office buildings and our research facilities. It's not just about construction. That's an important part. It's what we can see when we talk about our cranes. But I'd also like to see, and this came up during our visit here at Madison Park, that our employer partners, our externship partners, our college partners, our industry partners, that there are signs that proudly boast of Madison Park High school graduates work here, that they're part of this family. I think that helps with building that greater awareness, but building that MP pride that I know exists very deep into the fabric of the city of Boston. I think also Mr. Ryan, I appreciated his comment saying the lights should never go out in this building. And I also appreciate his offer to stay here. But then that ask for that need for help, for continued cooperation, for continued funding, because we know, as wonderful as any of this sounds, and as we set our aspirations higher and higher, that it does cost money, and it requires what Lou mentioned is a commitment to changing the story of what's happening here at Madison. I've heard that loud and clear. I've also sad to hear of anything here at Madison Park being referred to as a tragedy. We have work to do before us, no doubt. We have the student body that's interested in participating in that. We also have 57,000 students across our district that should be exposed to the opportunities here and also participate in enhancing those opportunities that are offered here. And I believe that it can be done, it all can be done, and I think with our leadership, our partnership in this work, with helping you make this happen, with helping all of you make this happen, I really do believe that we can do this. And I also want to say that I endorse the statement that Madison Park should be at the top of the list when we're talking about Build BPS. So I want to thank you all for being here. I'm sure my colleagues have some closing remarks as well.
And I'll be very, very quick. First, thank you again, both of you. Thank all of you for your thoughtfulness and your comments and your commitment to the school community. As many people said before, as I said in my opening, seeing what is happening all around us and having our young people being locked out of that is very shameful. But I am very encouraged by what I saw here tonight. And I look forward to the ongoing, not just conversation, but the partnership and the actions that will come from this. And so I feel much better having heard all of your powerful testimony and your thoughts and your ideas and just hearing your commitment than I did when I first came here and opened up. So thank you. Again, thank you, Kevin, to you and your amazing team. And thank you all.
I just want to add two things. The first is that I think so much of what we're trying to do on the council and in government around policy, so many of the big problems that we're faced with really across the country, around income inequality, around racial disparities, around the opioid crisis, can all be traced back to who's getting access to opportunity, who is able to tap into this wealth of resources that was mentioned, literally, figuratively, and Boston should really be that model for proving that this is where the solutions to those issues begin, vocational technical education, training our kids from every background to have that skill. And the second thing I want to add is that the thing that stuck out most for me as we were visiting Worcester Tech was they talked about how every holiday season wreaths go up. Did you guys already talk about this before I did? So their wreaths go up around the city, and there's these beautiful, green wreaths with a W for the city of Worcester and lights in them. And they talk about how the students at the school make it from scratch, right? So horticulture makes the leaves, and then the electrical shop wires the lights, and the wood shop makes the box so they don't get crushed on delivery, and they install them and everything. And every single person going through Worcester downtown in the holidays knows that this is made by their kids. There's such pride in the city and these students in this school. So I really believe we have the resources, we have everything we need. It's just about getting that will and that pride in this school, in this community. So I'm confident that with this start, with us on our side and the community and all these incredible leaders who testified today, that we'll get that going. We need to just amplify that pride.
Can I add to that? If you're gonna go for the wreaths, can we get it done for the veterans? Yes?
We'll add it to the
That
list.
goes throughout the city?
Thank you all very much.
Good to see you.